So we had some big trades in the NBA this past week. We had the New York Knicks acquiring Mikal Bridges for a bunch of draft picks and Bojan Bogdanovic. So Trevon, how do you think Mikal Bridges will fit on this New York Knicks team moving forward into the next season?
I think it's kind of like one of the most perfect fits you can think of. And this goes beyond the basketball court. If you think about obviously the connection that everybody has from playing with college, it was kind of like a joke for a while. Everybody saying, "Oh, all they need is Mikal Bridges now," but they actually turned that into fruition now. And I think chemistry matters a lot more than people would say it is. And I don't think it's just on the court and how much time you spend with players. I think it actually matters how you genuinely feel about your teammates because I think that translates over to the court seamlessly. You're going to see guys do things as far as non-scoring type of production, hustling, going after loose balls, playing hard, rotating to make sure you have your teammates back. I think that genuinely comes from how you feel about one of your teammates. And obviously, with them being all from Villanova, I think that's like one of the most high valuable things about it. And I think all the not playing with each other on the NBA level, I think that can easily get smoothed over just because they have that familiarity with each other. And then when you do look at the basketball stuff that he provides, he's another really great defender. He's had time to go to Brooklyn where he was in more of a shot creation type role, things he was not able to do when he was in Phoenix. You know, obviously there was Devin Booker and Chris Paul was there. And then once he got traded for Kevin Durant, he kind of really was able to find another part of his game where there's been multiple times where he said he's never really been in a role like that because he was always kind of that slasher off the ball kind of guy. You know, he was spotting up and shooting, guarding the other team's best player. Well, now he's going to be kind of put back into that role, but he has this piece to where when he's put in those catch and shoot situations, which we've talked about multiple times, it's not just literally catching and shooting the ball. It's also being able to, once you catch the ball, if you don't have the shot, am I able to put the ball on the floor, get all the way to the basket, or can I do a 1 to 2 dribble pull up? Can I get a paint touch and pass it out and create opportunities for my other players? I think with him being in that scoring position in Brooklyn is going to unlock so many things in New York. A lot of people were looking for the Knicks to make a big splash signing. One, with just how the new CBA is, it's very hard to do that. And two, you kind of already have your star in Jalen Brunson. So I don't think they needed to go too crazy in getting some high level superstar. We've heard talks about like a Paul George and or Joel Embiid. That was more of a futuristic type thought in the future. But you have a team now. It's best when teams build around a certain star or around two people. They still have Julius Randle. You know, that's another force they were missing. They're going to get Mitchell Robinson back. So if you really look at this roster in totality and the guys they had last year, they made a pretty decent run without Julius Randle, without a consistent availability of Mitchell in the playoffs and stuff like that. And you're adding another guy who's not like a young player. He's not a project. He's I think like 27 or 20. He's up there in age, so he has experience. He's been to the playoffs. He's been to the finals. Like he's bringing a lot of value to this team. And then you obtain OG Anunoby, which we'll talk about, but I really like this signing because I think you do have to consider their standing in the Eastern Conference. You do have to consider the Milwaukee Bucks. They weren't able to really do what they were expected to do due to injury in the playoffs. And then you have Philly, where Joel Embiid is always a question. So I think they're anywhere between that second to third best team in the East, and you're always going to have a chance. You're going to have home court advantage. We already thought they matched up well with Boston. Boston will probably be a different animal now because they have that confirmed confidence that we can win the championship with the type of style we play, with the type of players we have. So always difficult to beat a more confident team like that when they were already amazing. But we went into the last playoff saying if when healthy, they're the best matchup for Boston. And we all know if you're going to try to win a championship, if you're going to try to win the Eastern Conference, you got to go through them. So I think they match up well with a lot of teams. And I really do like the fit just from a basketball standpoint, chemistry standpoint, familiarity. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I really like this trade for the New York Knicks. I think that Mikal Bridges fits very well on this team. I think offensively, he can bring another player that can score the basketball and shoot and space the floor as well. And I think he fits very well on the defensive side of things. I think you can add him to the already very good defensive players that they have on the New York Knicks alongside OG Anunoby and Dante DiVincenzo. Mikal Bridges is a very good perimeter defender. He's long, he's athletic, he can keep up with guards and get over screens and things like that. So I think that he is a very good fit on the defensive end. And I think he's a very good fit on the offensive end. He provides a player that can space the floor, he can shoot the basketball, he can put the ball on the floor. He did have kind of a down year this past year in Brooklyn, but I think a lot of that was because he had a lot of high volume in terms of being a primary shot creator. He has gotten a lot of reps as being a primary ball handler, and he has gotten better at it, but I do think he is slotted better as more of like a secondary ball handler, a guy that once Brunson may not have the matchup he needs or get the matchup he wants off of a pick and roll or a dribble handoff, you can swing it around and get it to a Mikal Bridges, who is a very good spot up shooter, but also can put the ball on the floor and has gotten a lot better at being a pick and roll ball handler, being a player that can create his own shot and create off the bounce. So I think that Mikal Bridges is a really good addition to this New York Knicks team. He gives their offense more versatility. He helps them in 5-out offense, which the New York Knicks really like to run, especially if they can sign Hardenstein back. Hardenstein is a great 5-out big, even though he doesn't shoot the ball very well or he's not known as a shooter. He's a great pick and roll big. He's great in the short roll and finding his teammates and passing the ball. He is kind of a playmaking big in that short roll, finding his teammates and making good plays off of the short roll. And then he's a really good finisher in the paint. He has that little flip shot and he can finish around the basket very well. And he's a great rebounder. So I think Hardenstein being a really good 5-out big and what he can provide on the offensive end, pairing that with the addition of Mikal Bridges is going to help the New York Knicks a lot. So hopefully the New York Knicks can sign Hardenstein back and they can have Mikal Bridges added to this team. And I think that that fit is just going to be very good for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, definitely. Because what I immediately thought about was just the versatility of different lineups they'll be able to throw. It'll be interesting to see how Tom Thibodeau handles that. He's had a lot of talent in the past. You think about Derrick Rose, he was the coach for him when he was in his best years in Chicago. Jimmy Butler when he was emerging. So I think he'll find productive lineups out there. I can see Julius Randle playing the five, and then that gives you that 5-out ability and he has more space to be that downhill force that we think he's best at instead of kind of him being a little bit more persuaded to take those fall away jumpers because now you don't have a big pretty much just sitting there in the paint. The team's going to have to guard everybody. So I think this is going to open it up a lot for everyone. Think it's going to make it harder for teams to really key in on Brunson. And I just think this adds another span of versatility that you can actually do with the lineups that makes it easier on everybody. So, um, yeah, Hartenstein is important. You also got to think about McBride and what he has been able to do, how he's been able to produce. That's another guard. And a lot of guys really had to step up. Think about Alec Burks and that game 7 against the Pacers. He came through and provided some things. So, you have the depth. And I think in the Eastern Conference, I do believe that that is enough to win the Eastern Conference and to compete for the Eastern Conference championship. And we've already talked about how they match up with everybody else in the East. So, yeah, man, I don't really have much else to say other than I really like it. And this is a team I'm excited to see because I think we can all agree that the NBA is better when the Knicks are good and relevant. So I think this just adds to that. And it's going to be a cool story to see all those Villanova guys back together.